What's the scariest encounter you've had with a total stranger? I was about 10, getting back home from the park with my sister. She, being the stubborn younger I need know older sister playing mom to me sibling, walked purposely 20 meters ahead so nobody would even think we were together. She rounds the corner, and I hear a blood-curdling scream. I never covered 20 meters so fast in my life. I round the corner, and there's a man, holding my sister by her throat, dragging her into an opened car park nearby. When he sees me advancing and yelling incomprehensibly, I honestly don't know what I yelled. I was scared out of my wits, and he realizes there's two of us. He drops her, jumps into the car and drives off. She had fingerprint-shaped bruises on her throat for days. Holy moly, just reading this is scary. Yeah, it's been 3 decades and I have this panicky reaction to this day when I'm out with the kids and they run ahead and round the corner. I'm instantly yelling at them to keep closer to me where I can see them. Went to a yard sale with my aunt when I was like 5. A little boy, about the same age as me, approaches me and tells me to come inside to meet his dad. I wander off with him without my aunt noticing, and he brings me into the house where the yard sale is taking place. We go down to the basement and there was his naked dad lying on a couch excitedly greeting me as if he'd been awaiting my company or something. I actually don't remember much after that. I just got out of there as fast as possible, and it's been a strange memory of mine ever since. I don't know what's more disturbing, the thought that he sent the little boy to get you, or the thought that he was waiting for the little boy and then got excited when he happened to also bring you. How about the fact that he was bold enough to try to do something like this while there was a busy yard sale going on right outside his home? Even if you have no reason to expect anyone to enter your home without your permission, that's still incredibly bold. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. I will never forget it. When Ghostbusters 2 came out I wanted to see it. My mom took me to the local theater. I think I was around 9. I needed to use the bathroom, so I ran down the small hall and turned the corner. When I saw a much older man come out of the bathroom. When he saw me, he stopped, went back in. When I didn't move he opened the door, peeking his head and arm out, motioning me to come towards him. I probably looked like a deer in headlights. I didn't move. It was frozen until he said, come on in. Panic rushed over me, and I ran back towards my mom, who said I was pale white. She quickly left the theater with me and went home. Stranger danger worked out that day in the 80s. I can still picture him, or at least the picture my brain made of this memory. Edit. Sorry I can't get to everyone's questions, but I truly thank you for sharing your stories. I had no idea how common this was for little kids. I'm so glad most, if not all of you ran back to safety. It saddens me for the kids that didn't have that instinct. No kid deserves to be scared or coerced by another adult, regardless of intentions. In the 80s kids were left alone more. We were left at amusement park as teens, kids at mall arcades. It is just how it was. Without the internet you never knew what was outside the general area of coverage, unless it was extreme and made it to national news. Today we know what could be lurking behind open doors, vans, and corners, but that doesn't make it any better. It's still scary, and I'm glad more kids are watched more closely, not left alone, etc. Be safe and please after reading all these comments teach your kids stranger danger and drill it in their heads. Edit 2. Thank you for all of the awards and all the stories. Although, hearing all these stories reminds me that it can be very scary out there. Keep safe and healthy everyone. Thank you everyone. A very cheerful guy approached me and my friend in a park in a very non-threatening way. He was holding a frisbee and explained he was putting together an impromptu game of ultimate frisbee and looking for people to join him. Which was fine, but then he tried to grab me by the throat. It was such a sudden change of mood. My friend, an athletic dude, unfortunately got between us and just stared him down, and he ran away. The whole thing was just bizarre. Drugs or a mental disorder probably. I've been to a lot of music festivals and stuff, and there's always the one guy that is friendly as anything 1 second and then violently attacking someone the next because their brain was like that dude just gave you side eye, kill him. Many years ago, I, 21F, was waiting in line outside of a nightclub with a couple of my friends. We were happily chatting with some other guy in line for a bit. Suddenly his mood changed and he just shoved me by my throat. I fell on my the bouncer was on him in seconds. While the bouncer had the guy pinned down on his stomach, the guy was staring at me and screaming over and over at me. We were just casually making small talk 1 second and the next second he was so violent. I assume he was on drugs, drunk, or mentally ill. Freaky. Older woman approached me on campus asking me to take her to this spot in town, since she doesn't know where it is. I say no, it was a new city for me too, and she gave vibes. She insists it's right around the corner so it's not that far, so suddenly she knows where it is. I refuse and she hesitates, and then walks off. An older guy asks if she needs directions only for her to walk by him. I just thought it was strange, but I didn't really think about it. The next week, I check my phone when I get to class and someone posted an article about how this older woman, who was tied to multiple cases of human trafficking, was just caught by the police in a nearby town. From the description alone, I knew it was the woman I had talked to. Something almost identical happened to me when I was a teenager. I was walking home, and a middle-aged woman stopped her car and in broken English asked me for directions to a nearby location. I gave her verbal directions that she showed no indication she was processing. Then she asked me to just get in and she would bring me back later. I refused. She insisted. I apologized and refused again and left. I've been telling this story for years because I thought it was bizarre. Not once has it occurred to me that it could have been a human trafficking operation until I read your story. I think we assume the best because it's human instinct to be kind and helpful. I was walking to uni when a guy in his car pulled over next to me and asked for directions to the local library. We were actually pretty close to it, so I gave him some simple directions, but he asked if I'd get in the car with him to direct him. I was like, no way, I'll be late to my lecture, and once I got onto campus my friends said, was it probably a kidnapping attempt? Never even clocked it at the time. I was 19, and I was sleeping with the window open, since it was a hot summer night. My BF and I were both knocked out, but all of a sudden I wake up, just opened my eyes, didn't get up, and I had a horrible gut feeling, and just an overwhelming feeling, that I was being watched. I turn to my side and I see someone's head sticking in from the window. Needless to say, I had a heart attack, and as soon as they heard me get up they left. Edit. Thank you everyone for the upvotes and awards. This actually the first time I've ever gotten any award on here, so I'm very grateful. Hopefully to anyone reading this and some of the stories in the comments you learn to always be careful and close your window. You never who might be trying to take a peek inside. Holy this one scares me the most. You can show me any horror film, Pinhead, Freddy Krueger, all of that. Event The Exorcist, not scary at all. Enjoyable, but not scary. Then show me a documentary or a news report of a neighborhood peeping Tom, serial murderer, or a story of someone who used a gas station bathroom on a lonely Midwestern highway, never to be seen again, and that is freaking unsettling. When I was around 10 to 11 a friend invited me to a water park. During swimming at a wave pool he found some random kid around our age and decided to tell this kid that the game we were going to play was hold me down in the water. I didn't get that memo, so I thought him and this kid were just trying to drown me. This went on for what felt like an hour of me swimming away and hiding. I didn't hang out with him afterward. Same trip, after we were done with the pool I got to the changing rooms and there is a couple people in there. Old man on the bench asks me if I wanted him to help me change. I just said no thanks and quickly changed and ran out. This was scary for me to read because around your age I was at a water park with a wave pool. A good friend of mine invited me. We were swimming around and got separated, and this buff guy swam up to me, put his hands on my shoulders, and pushed me down under the water. He wasn't letting go. I was in disbelief, tried to push my way back up. He was probably 3x as strong as me. Because I was surprised and struggling, I was running out of breath quickly. I felt myself giving up. At this point, the guy stopped pushing me down and let me surface. I looked into his face and he laughed like a crazy person. A wave came and he swam into a crowd of people. I got the out of there and haven't gone in a wave pool since. Never told my friend, but I told my parents and a therapist years later. I'm now 27, and it's no surprise that my #1 fear is being murdered by a stranger. Friend pushed me into the deep end of the pool, not knowing I don't know how to swim. I don't understand what I did, how I did it, but I was able to frantically swim out of the water and borderline torpedo out of the water before vomiting a lungful of water. Not scary per se, but deeply disturbing. Random dude at my local library accosted me while I was enjoying a new sci-fi novel and was absolutely convinced I was his son. Kept telling me he was sorry and he never meant to kill my mother, who he called Pink, and said some other heinous won't describe. Bad crazy, but he sounded so rational and calm the whole time. Gave me the creeps for a long time after. Hey, I also call people colors when I'm on a psychotic mania trip. Swore to God, that might have been me if instead of a library it was a bar in Bangkok. I also call people colors when I'm on a psychotic mania trip. Wow, man. I had a hell of a week. Helping this missing woman's parents get to their daughter, whom they told me was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, 1 or 2 they don't know. She's homeless and has been for the last 6 years. Pretty heavily affected by her illness and drug use. She's been in my neighborhood across the country from where she's actually from for about a year now. The entire story is a lot, but the people as colors thing caught me here. She kept talking about how me and my partner are pink, but most people are orange. She kept going on between metaphors about Cartoon Network, Foster's home for imaginary friends to explain her childhood. She believes she's a foster kid. She's not. She looks exactly like her mother that was standing 10 feet from her, very paranoid RN, and calling people formats and apprentices. Format in her case had a negative connotation. Apprentice equals positive. But for a year she's consistently talked about people as colors. I didn't know that wasn't individual to just her. The more I read about people's experiences with these disorders, the more common threads I find in their delusions. Each person experiences it differently, I assume, but it's really interesting to see that again after this week. I was 16 and sitting on a train station with my mother. Some man came over and started talking to her. After a while I looked at the clock and informed my mother that we needed to go because our train was about to arrive. He flew up from the seat and started screaming at me and wanted to fight me. My mother was confused and tried to explain to him that I was her daughter and that we really did need to leave. He just continued screaming, which of course made teenage me scream back at him. She had to pull me away from there. I never understood what made him see red like that. All I did was inform my mother our train was coming and we needed to leave. You were obviously trying to take her away from me. Some guy started yelling at me on a bus in Greek one time when I wouldn't make conversation with him, calling me a presumably a bunch of other rude things. When I tried to pass him to go to another seat, he kicked me in the back. He wasn't drunk or high as far as I could tell. Some people are just psychopaths. I had the worst experience in Greece with the local men. Once a day, every day, someone would try and fight me. I always found it strange as most of them were not big dudes, most were way smaller than me. Luckily my Greek friend, who was like 6 feet 3 inches, was there to intervene and give them a stern talking to lol. But sure enough, without fail, every single day some rando would try and fight me. Only passenger in a train car in Europe late at night. A disheveled man wild hair and beard, tagged sweater, entered the car and started pacing up and down the aisle. He is talking to himself in a language I couldn't understand. Every few trips he would stop in front of me and yell at me in whatever language he spoke. I would try to respond, but he didn't know English any more than I understood whatever language he was speaking. He would eventually give up yelling at me and would go back to pacing the aisle and talking to himself. This went on for hours. Really wish I could have recorded him back then, so I could eventually find someone to translate it. I think interactions get 10x scarier when you can't understand what the other person is saying. My wife and I were in Cancun, Mexico for vacation and got on a public bus to go downtown. A few stops later, a guy gets on the already crowded bus, stands near the front of the bus and starts talking very fast and loud. Didn't understand a word of Spanish, so I'm a little nervous. Is this a protest? Does he have a mental disorder? No idea what's going on. Then he opens up his backpack and starts selling candy bars. Lol. I, 21F at the time, was in a store picking up some items for my house when I noticed a man was literally peeking at me from around a corner. I first brushed it off and continued my shopping, but was aware that this man was following me around the store. He then sang out to me and said I looked familiar and asked if I went to the local university. I didn't, so I said no. At this point I got creeped out, so I checked out and went to my car. I heard footsteps behind me and knew he had followed me, so I just jumped in my car and locked the doors. It was dark, so I hadn't noticed him go around the back of my car until he banged on my passenger window. I ignored him and started the car. This prompted him to run around the front and start banging on my driver's side door, trying to open it and asking me for a ride. I was terrified and just pulled out of the parking space as fast as I could and drove off, with him chasing my car until I rounded a corner. I have no idea what his plan was, but to this day I'm nervous about dark parking lots at night. I say this not just to you, but to everyone. If you think someone is following you, for goodness sake, please don't leave a more populated area for a less populated one. If you're in a store, find a manager or security person. Let them know you fear you're being followed. Describe the person and then ask for someone to walk you to your car. Most businesses will be happy to oblige. There were 2 times in the last 2 years where I was followed in a store, and as soon as I got home both times I regretted not telling a security person or worker. Fear overtook me, and I was scared that I was wrong about being followed and that I might get an innocent person in trouble. But, looking back, I was absolutely being followed, and I fear that when I removed myself from those situations, that the creeps targeted other women. Please tell someone if you think you're being followed. You never know someone's intentions, and if there's even a slight chance that you are in danger, take it seriously. You could save not only your own life, but potentially someone else's too. I was staying at a motel out of town. I was in my room on the bed in my underwear watching TV. Next thing I know, the door opens and a guy walks halfway in. He stops and we just kinda look at each other. I'm freaking out internally. I was 20 and a mama's boy and rarely went anywhere by myself. I didn't know if this was a robbery or a murder. I was completely stuck in fear. He looks at me and mumbles WTF. He looks at the door number, then as Kika, then back at the door number. Then he goes, oh, they told me my room was 223. I clear the fear in my throat enough to go, I've been here all day. You might wanna go tell them there is a mistake. He nods and closes the door and leaves. I'm 40 now, and the second I get in hotel/motel I deadbolt and chain the door. When I lived in halls of residence we didn't lock our doors, because you already had to get through 2 locked doors to get to our flat. We trusted each other, and it was too easy to lock yourself out of your room otherwise. My flatmate was having a party one night and 2 very drunk girls came stumbling into my room, where I was eating ice cream in bed watching Howl's Moving Castle. We stared at each other for a long time. I think I scared them more than they scared me. I locked my door whenever there were parties after that. I was at a storage depot with my ex, picking up some stuff or other. Suddenly and without warning, this oldish guy approaches out of nowhere and starts a conversation with my ex. I'm in the unit at the time, so it's possible he didn't know I was there, but the clipped tone and monosyllabic answers from my ex were enough for me to know he was making her feel uncomfortable. That's when I heard him say, "Don't worry, I'm not going to or anything." Like, literally 2 or 3 sentences into a conversation with a total stranger, he felt this would be a reassurance. So I stepped out of the unit, making my presence known by moving some stuff around in the hall, and his whole demeanor changed, somewhere between contrition and aggression, that I dared insert myself into whatever the he thought this was. My ex stayed back, while I kept the old attention on me, and he took me to task for calling him mate, a common thing British people do when they don't know someone's name, saying it was rude and disrespectful to a stranger. I responded with as rude and disrespectful as talking about to a young woman you thought was alone. He shuffled away, mumbling something about knowing the management, leaving us both a little shook. To this day, I have no idea what his damage was, but it was clear that he wasn't used to being confronted like that. God knows what he would have done if my ex had been alone. Something very similar happened to me while at work. I work in an adult store, typically alone. When I was about 2 months in, this guy comes in, and right away I noticed something was off about this guy. He started asking me to help him find which we aren't allowed to do for safety reasons, as most of our DVD section has no camera coverage and management at the time forbid us from going back there with customers. I refuse to help this guy find his material, and he goes, "What? It's not like I'm going to you." He walks away and then comes back up to me less than a minute later, asking for help with the product this time. I go over and tell him about this product. Out of nowhere, he asks me how much I weigh. I said, "Oh, I'm not sure, probably 210, 220. He goes, "No way, I don't believe you," and he wraps his arms around me way too tightly and lifts me up off the ground. I had to literally beg this guy to put me down, and he didn't until I said, "Please, I have a bad back problem." I was beside myself and fully panicking, so I beelined it for the counter and waited for him to leave a few minutes later. I called my manager in tears. I was a mess. I've only seen him twice since then, and I kicked him out for stealing. This one really sticks out to me, as I haven't had any really scary encounters, most just made me uncomfortable. This one scared me in a different way. I was with my GF at the time, and we were with our 2 friends, who were sisters. We were in our late 20s, walking around an outlet mall. I was about 10 feet behind the 3 of them, so to anyone else it probably didn't look like I was with them. They walked past a bench, and sitting on it was a white guy in a long black coat and no other real discernible features. For whatever reason, I specifically noticed him as they were approaching, so I was watching him the entire time. The instant he was out of eyesight of the girls, he holds up a police badge, but kept it very close to his body, likely hiding the fact that he was showing it. He faced it towards them and followed them with it the entire time. He put it down after they were about 5 feet away. I'm not sure if he stopped because he noticed me or not. I know this doesn't sound scary at all, but all I could think was this dude is building up the courage to pretend he's a police officer to women, and he's going to hurt someone one day. I'm not sure if I got bad vibes from him prior to that, or I'm misremembering when I got those vibes, but it seriously creeped me out. I really hoped he was just some dorky guy and wasn't up to no good. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.